Every now and then, politics gives you a tell, not a poll, not a policy paper, not spin, the truth. Socialists are taking over the Democrat Party. Milot Quiros just knocked off a Democrat who's held this Colorado seat for 15 terms, 3 decades. And afterwards, she thanked her comrades.
I want you all, seriously, look at each other. Half of the people here are strangers to you all. Just months ago, you didn't know them. But now you have comrades. You have friends in this movement, people that you know will fight for your rights just as much as you're gonna fight for them. That is solidarity. That is a movement.
Comrades. You know, that's one of those words we don't exactly throw around in America. You don't hear it at Little League games. You don't hear it at the Rotary Club. You don't hear it from your buddies when you show up for 18 holes of golf. It's a choice. And it's a choice, according to the communist's biggest streamer and cheerleader, Hassan Piker, that's coming to your home.
I think progressive politics, left populism, a politics that centers the needs of the working class can work in every district, in every state. That's why I kept saying over and over again, it's coming to a city near you.
And as you weigh your choice, here is what they're selling.
We will not wait to take the fight to Donald Trump and the oligarchy. We will not wait. We will not wait to abolish ICE and pass Medicare for all. We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate PACs and AIPAC. We will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
It's as cute as air horns that Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries think these people are auditioning to become Democrats, that they're now part of a new big tent. These people are auditioning to take over Democrats and to own the tent. Quiros telling Politico after her win, for decades, Democrats have failed to meaningfully deliver for working families. That includes, she added, not supporting House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker. So once they own Democrats, the Democratic Socialists of America intend to own America. And how do I know that? Let's take a look over at the wall. The Democratic Socialists of America, what is their platform? What is it that they believe? Well, it's things that we've all heard. Medicare for all, college for all, housing for all, and doing all of that with a 32-hour work week. It's a virtual wish list on a college freshman dorm room. You'll pay for it by, of course, taxing the rich, and why don't we throw in the Green New Deal and free Palestine along the way? But the DSA goes further. They are looking to, for example, end the U.S. war machine, fight mass incarceration and police brutality, allow workers to migrate between countries, end all immigrant detention and deportations, immediate amnesty social services for all immigrants, and fully extending voting rights to criminals and non-citizens. And yet, it even gets more radical. With that power, here is your change. Seek statehood for Washington, D.C., replace the two-party system, expand the House, popular vote for president, and limit the powers of the Supreme Court. And yet all of this that I have just shown you, it's nothing compared to their rhetoric, their words, their honesty about wanting to tear down America.
We will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards.
This nation was founded on genocide and the mass displacement of people.
We have to use every tool in the toolbox to make sure that we abolish ICE and keep our immigrant neighbors safe.
Was 9/11 an inevitable consequence for America based on U.S. foreign policy?
Inevitable in the sense that we destabilized a lot of the Middle East. That forced people to believe that another act of violence was the only response.
If you really want to talk about destabilization, let's see what would happen in a world without borders or prisons or police. That's a position that New York's Daria Lisa Chevalier seemingly endorsed at one time by retweeting a post claiming all of that was possible, necessary, and the only moral way forward. She also seemed pretty intrigued by communism, writing in a now deleted post in 2020. Most of the theory I've read is communism, but the pyromania associated with anarchism is very intriguing to me. I must read further. Years ago, when people start throwing the word comrade, you want to dust off Ayn Rand. And years ago, she made an observation that's worth remembering. She argued that communism and socialism seek the same destination. The difference is that communism seeks to get there by force, while socialism tries to get there through the ballot box. But it's still the same destination. She said it's the difference between murder and suicide. We have a choice. They're telling the truth. And it's a choice that dictates a future for America. Joining me now is the Democratic Socialists of America co-chair, Ashik Siddique. Ashik, thanks for being with us here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
I hope through the course of our conversation, I understand more about what it is the DSA seeks to accomplish in America. So let's start with a couple. Several of the candidates that the DSA has endorsed, like Daria Lisa Chevalier, have talked about the destruction of America. Is that part of the goals of the DSA, to tear down the project that we know of as America?
Our goal is to expand possibility in America and expand the promise of America. So many people have come to the United States for centuries in search of a better life, in search of opportunity. And today, the United States is the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and yet more people than ever are struggling to get by. So we believe that workers deserve more in the United States. Everybody deserves a basic floor for a good life.
I understand, Ashik. What's the path? Is it in fact communism? Do you seek communism?
Our goal is democratic socialism, which we think is distinct from, the Soviet Union, which ended decades ago. So we point to examples in America's own history, like the most famous democratic socialist that many people know is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was a religious as well as civil rights leader, and he pushed for economic rights for all people.
I'm not sure that all your members see that distinction, though, between democratic socialism and communism. Look, let me show you an example. This is National DSA Political Committee member David Jenkins. Watch this.
I mean, our goal is liberation. Our goal is communism. We're a diverse body of libertarian socialists, libertarian Marxists, anarchists, left communists, and other schools of thought within the sort of left wing of the socialist movement.
He says our goal is communism.
We have a big tent of all sorts of ordinary people who have many different ideas about what the pathway is or what the horizon is. I would point to what Dr. Martin Luther King said over 50 years ago. He said, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, but there has to be a better distribution of wealth within this country for all God's children.
So you use those two terms interchangeably, democracy and democratic socialism, you use that interchangeably?
We want to expand democracy. That's what it's all about for us. We want to expand democracy in our government, like some of the things you talked about, like doing away with the Electoral College. That's a pretty undemocratic institution. We want to expand democracy.
Let's get specific, okay? I am curious. So I wrote a few of them down. And this is based upon candidates you've endorsed, basically all of them. Do you believe in the concept of borders, nation states having a border?
We believe that right now what we have is open borders for capitalists, for CEOs. We have people who've run major companies that have hollowed out cities all over the country, taking jobs out of communities, outsourcing jobs, pushing trade deals that are bad for workers. So we would not have open borders tomorrow, but we want a world in which all working people are taken care of, every basic necessity, so that we don't need a militarized border. ICE was only created in 2003. The border,
I hear you clearly. And this is the goal of my conversation with you. I want to understand. So ultimately, yes, I do hear a nation without borders. I don't think I'm mischaracterizing what you said. What about property transfers? We've heard that both from Mamdani. We've heard that from Claire Valdez in New York. And I'll just pair that with seizing the means of production. So forcible removal of private property rights and a transfer.
I think what we want to do is have democratic decisions about how resources are distributed in our country. So the healthcare industry is the best example of that.
If a majority votes to take something away from an individual, then that would be a democratic transfer of property?
I think we would look at something like how taxes work today. Right now, Elon Musk has just become the world's first trillionaire in America's own history. In the 1950s, when Dwight D. Eisenhower was president, there was a top marginal tax rate of 90%. So anybody making over, let's say, $1 million, 90% of that would go back to fund public services for everyone. And then over the years, those that marginal tax rate has been done away with, basically.
But
So
Ashik,
that
we're not just talking
billionaires and
taxes.
trillionaires
These candidates are talking about
We are
property.
talking about taxes.
No, not just, I hear you, but not just taxes. Chevalier and Mamdani are talking about taking away real property, houses, apartments, landowners, taking it away from them. And you've said to me here today that if you have a democratic process for doing so, the way I think, if we're speaking honestly and not talking points, and I really am trying to hear you here, but if there's a room of 10 of us and 9 of us vote to take away a home from the single individual, that sounds like something you support.
Right now, we have a system where the richest people in the country are the ones making that decision. They're the ones making decisions about foreclosures, where millions of people have lost their homes over the years. We want more Americans to be able to afford their own homes, to afford the cost of rent, to afford the ability to own their own home if they can afford it. But wages are not keeping up with inflation. So and the wealthiest people right now, in Manhattan, in the island of Manhattan right now, 1 out of 3 apartments are vacant right now. They're just owned by rich people. Nobody lives there. This is why
so take them away. So take them away from the property owner and give them to the people?
In New York City, they just passed a pied-à-terre tax, a tax on people who have multiple properties, multiple apartments, and they should pay that. They should help fund affordable housing for everybody. Mamdani just passed a rent freeze. That's very popular. That's going to help keep costs down for millions of New Yorkers. So
last
we
one.
want to make decisions that raise the floor.
Do you support doing away with police and prisons?
We want safety for everybody. So safety from us doesn't come from just investing in more and more militarized police and prisons. We want, the data shows that when you take care of people economically, crime goes down. So Zohran Mamdani just passed a budget that doesn't add any new police in the budget while investing way more in other public services like mental health, like
we saw this in 2020,
parks,
did we not? We saw defund the police and we saw crime rates go up. You want to try that again here a few 6 years later?
We don't. We would not make these changes immediately. We want to make police and prisons less necessary. But, in the meantime, we do think there are plenty of people who our justice system should go after. We think that, for example, Jeffrey Epstein deserves to be in prison for running a billionaire pedophile ring, and lots of people associated with him should probably be prosecuted. We think fossil fuel CEOs should be prosecuted for lying about climate change caused by fossil fuels.
So these arguments that you're making, I'm curious about your constituency.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about the constituency for the DSA for a moment, because you make this working class argument as though you're looking out for the poor and the downtrodden. But the membership of the DSA doesn't reflect that's actually who's supporting your policies and your platform. The New York Times just published a survey of your DSA membership. And it's interesting what it notes. It says 80% of your membership are college educated. Another 85% are white. So you're made up almost in the 80 to, we can put it up on the screen, 80 to 90% of well-educated, well-off white people. Is that who it is you're fighting for? Is that, if it's not, why are those that you suggest you're fighting for not supporting you, Ashik?
Well, we're winning candidates all over the country and uniting people across differences. The DSA is led by working class people across the country, and the people that I organize with every day are not all white, higher educated people. They're multi-generational, racially diverse in every part of the country. We have teachers.
Well, I hear you, but I'm looking at the stats of the survey of your membership. 80 to 85% fit the profile we just talked about.
I would compare that to who's in our government right now, who's running the corporations that fund our politics. All across the country, DSA members who are not just young white people, not just in New York, not just in Los Angeles, but we're winning candidates in politics in the South, in Midwest, in Georgia, in Kentucky, in Michigan. And these are diverse, average working class people.
I noticed. Yeah,
with loan
absolutely.
debt, working minimum wage jobs, just like any other person.
Supported by rich white kids who have a wish list of economic policies that resemble a college dorm room. I think you've been incrementalist in our conversation and therefore not completely honest, but I do think you've helped me I think you've enlightened me some degree about the extent of that wish list you have. And I appreciate your willingness to engage and share with us what you hope, what your vision is of America. Ashik Siddique, thank you.
All right, thanks for taking the time.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.